joining us for today's Tuesday 20-minute live. I'm Natalie Coladillo, the founder and CEO of Happy Healthy Women, and I am joined today by the amazing Stephanie Olegario. Where do I begin with Stephanie? Stephanie is our branch director in the downtown Toronto branch. She is also a life coach and an ancestral healer, and she does profound work with people in breaking down barriers and removing blocks from their lives through her healing so that they can move forward. So Stephanie, I want to welcome you and thank you so much for being here today. And I'm excited to chat with you, but I just want to hand the floor over to you so that you can share what you wanted to share.
Thank you for having me, Natalie. It's really important for me to be able to share this with everyone. First, I would like to start to acknowledge my ancestry with my ancestors and also ancestors of place. So if you could bear with me for a moment, I'm going to just take a moment to do that. So I just wanted to let you know my father, who's Tesoro Olegario, his lineage is Filipino from the Ilocos Pangasinan region in the Philippines, with a bit of Chinese from the Guangdong region. My mother, Adeline Salvani's lineage is also Filipino from the Western Visayas region in Antique, and also has a touch of Spanish from Spain. So my parents settled here in Canada and I was born into Toronto. I acknowledge that this is the land that I'm standing on today, which is traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. I also acknowledge that Toronto was covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaty signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. I just wanted to thank the ancestors of place where we are right now to allow me to be here and share this with you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for doing that. So Stephanie, can I have you share a little bit about what you do, and then we'll get into our conversation today about how ancestral healing can really move us forward in our personal growth journey?
Great. So ancestral healing isn't really a new thing, but it is kind of getting popular these days. And it's kind of hard to just kind of pin down what it's like. So first we have to acknowledge that ancestral trauma is inherited through generations. So there are studies through a scientific study called epigenetics. So for all your science nerds like me, if you look into it, they study how gene expression is changed, either turned on or off, based on things that are not related to mutations. So with ancestral traumas, like when you experience a trauma, your genes have the ability to change. And from that, when it turns on or off a specific gene, that is what becomes inherited. So I work with energy healing, and through ancestral healing, I am able to, I have a client come over, either in person or online, where they lie down, and they usually come to me from a calling of their ancestors for healing. And what basically happens is that I'm guided by the ancestor. I invite them in to heal one trauma for that session, and they guide me around the body as to where these densities of energies are held. And through that work, I'm able to help release those densities and thereby healing the ancestral trauma. So the ancestor may share a story about what's happened to them, why they had that trauma. They may just come in for the healing, but basically after that healing, the ancestor is healed, and then you'll start to feel the integration after that. I hope I hope that was clear. Yeah.
Yes, no, I have so many questions based on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so first place I just wanted to start was, how do people know that they have blocks that they need ancestral healing with?
I think it's just I guess we'll kind of dip into where we're going to talk about personal development, but you'll start to notice, if you wanted to go into this work or get in terms of healing, you'll start to notice patterns in your family. So if you look at your family, like, oh, my grandmother has this issue, and my mom, and then, oh, I also have this with me as well. It's kind of recognizing those sort of patternings, but you really start to get called to this work through your ancestors. I can't explain exactly how they do it. Somehow you'll find me and be interested in what I'm talking about, or someone else whose modality is ancestral healing. But it's just an inner knowing, like you feel like, okay, there's something here that's beyond myself, that's calling me to be healed.
For sure. So sort of like, you might get thoughts or feelings one day of like, this is so interesting that I'm doing this now. This is a pattern that my mom did, that my grandmother did, and I've noticed like generations down. And so it's kind of like proactively stopping the pattern, right? Obviously, with things that you don't, because there's lots of great things about our generations, right, that we want to take with
Yes.
us, and then there's lots of things that we don't. So is that sort of what you mean by like being proactive and stopping the pattern?
Yes. So, like, let's say, for example, I think I might just actually jump into why it would help with personal development because
For
it's
sure, please do.
overlapping.
Yeah.
So, like, sometimes when you're, especially as a coach, your client may not know what's really wrong. And we kind of try, they really get focused on finding the root cause. But there might, and then usually the root cause goes, oh, well, my mom or something taught me this and I'm conditioned this way. But really, through ancestral healing, you may even be able to realize that this isn't just your mom. This could stem from generations and generations back, like this pattern of thinking or like a physical thing or mental or emotional or spiritual type of trauma that was experienced from years and years and generations ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so you work with, so yeah, share a little bit more about that, because how does looking at that and breaking free of that help us move forward?
So it would be able to help identify things. When we're going through our own personal development journey, we kind of, I know we want people to be accountable, but we really get hard on ourselves for something. Like there's things that could be deeply ingrained in us and we kind of analyze where that behavior could have happened. I'll give an example as like me and my workaholicism. So I'm like, okay, where did this come from? Where did this stem from? Oh, I was taught this way and I grew up this way. But then where did like my family learn that? And where did that thing come from? So it's like it really helps you dive deeper to realize that these things aren't necessarily because of you. It comes really deep from beyond your life and beyond other generations. So it really helps you give some perspective and not really think that it's only your fault. Like there's such a loneliness in personal development and learning about yourself, thinking that it was all you that caused this problem, but it
Mm-hmm.
could really be something that's deeper.
Yeah. So can you share some examples of, things that like people that have come to you that are maybe suffering from something that they've known, you know, has been happening for years, and then finally we can break through this? Like, what are some things that you've seen shift and transform?
So I just want to like give a disclaimer that every healing is different. So
For sure.
every time you come in, it could be something that is super deep and traumatic that an ancestor has held, and another one could be something that might be something like just a little patterning that's going on, and everybody's experience is different. So I'm going to try to just share some of mine, so that I wouldn't be talking about other clients, but the workaholism. So like I've been working hard on this addiction, and it's like it really influences my coaching program. And as I was thinking about it, I think about like relearning those traits from my mother. But through being healed myself from another ancestral healer, I was able to realize that more than one ancestor has been a workaholic in the past. Like one of my ancestors used to work in the field so much, and he was working really hard to support his family, and he in turn sacrificed his health in order to provide, because he only could do what the only thing he could do was work at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Another ancestor I've had on that same line, um, she she also had to work in the fields, but then her family was just taking advantage from her and using her money. But she felt that need to keep on providing, and that guilt from within that she had to keep working to provide for them. So in
Mm-hmm.
shifting those and healing those ancestors, I have been able to let go a bit more of my addiction to work, because I realized that it's not my fault or not my mom's fault. My mom's not the one. It's actually way
Yeah.
back. And then I have the ability to be able to shift those things.
Right. And I'm sure that that starts to show up in, like, now that you're empowered and being able to heal that side of your mindset and like inner space, you're able to turn that into other areas of your life. Am I right?
Yes. And like when after the healing, there's a 7-day integration period. So after I get healed, my ancestors healed, I'll have to, for the 7 days, more of my life will have these shifts that I'll start to
Mm-hmm.
notice. It could be other people who have inherited the same trauma. They'll start to all of a sudden start changing a little bit. You'll start noticing like, oh, okay, you know, or like for example, a relative can't communicate as well. And then the healing had to do with communication. Like you'll start noticing some people in your family are more communicative than ever. And you're just like, what happened? I don't know. You'll start to notice those things. You'll feel closeness to your ancestor. They may reveal themselves to you,
Mm-hmm.
or you'll just be a lot more aware. So it really integrates in a way that not only just knowing, but it's like an inner shift, and in my life around as well.
For sure. And this energy that, you bring about during this ancestral healing, this is actually touching those, right? Like, and I don't want to get too deep on like timelines and things like that, but when you talk about healing, I notice that you're talking about actually healing your ancestors. So the healing is within, but it's also happening out there, correct?
Yes, because they're the ones who initiate the healing. So I actually am there, and then I'm just like a kind of a bridge between the client and them, and then the ancestor will guide me to do whatever they would need to be healed. So
Wow.
it's really beautiful, and then it kind of energetically shifts along the line of the lineage of all the people who have inherited it too.
Interesting. Can I ask you about physical health as well? So, in terms of, say, there are people with chronic pain in certain areas of their body, or like, right, like my ankle always hurts, or, I've had surgery on this area 5 times. Like, is that a part of it as well, Stephanie? Do you also look at that?
Yes. So like when you have a healing session, I can't guarantee which ancestor comes. So like even if we're like, okay, I want the ancestor who has ankle problems, I
Right.
can't guarantee. Usually the ancestor that comes forward is relevant to that moment. So it could be something physical. But like we would end up hearing the story that maybe an ancestor, 8, 9 generations back had a farming accident where their ankle has been crushed by a piece of equipment. And then you'll start seeing every generation, somebody else has an ankle problem, everybody's ankle keeps breaking. And in that shift, you're going to be able to release that for you and not pass it forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is such interesting work. So, Stephanie, what would you say are the first steps to people realizing that they may have ancestral trauma, and moving along that direction in terms of their personal growth and development? What would you say are the first couple of steps before they come to see you?
Well, like being aware, like kind of just being noticed, like witness your
Yeah,
family instead of feeling like we carry a lot of baggage, like looking through a filter at our families. But you
blame.
could kind
Yeah.
of just witness about what's happening. Like, oh, some people might say, oh, we're just unlucky. These things keep happening to us, but it's really not. But just really being aware, being open, and really dig into your heart. You'll start to feel them, and like really start to even practice, like being connected with your ancestors. Like some people in some cultures, they have different ways of doing it. Maybe it could be just lighting a candle, having a meditation, inviting them to have a conversation with you. But as you start studying and looking at your family tree, I've actually started to map it. You can also map like kind of qualities that you see, and understanding that. But if you have something that comes up like a fear of out of nowhere, like you're like, why am I so scared of swimming in the ocean? Like this could be something beyond me. Like I've been fine. I've never had a situation where I feel like drowning, but I have that deep feeling or something that really feels beyond you. That is so strange. That could be ancestral as well. It's very apparent when you see it through generations, but it can skip. So it might not be your mom. It could be your grandmother or an aunt. It could be anywhere along those lines. So
Interesting. So interesting. So I guess like what you're saying is anytime we find ourselves, thinking back into our family lines, our family tree, and thinking, okay, well, this is just my destiny. Like my mother did this and my grandmother did this. And like, I mean, an example of that in my life is, we're all like all the women in my family, as far as I know, are entrepreneurs. So like my mom, my grandmother, her mother, like had some type of business. So I mean, that's not a bad thing. I really use that to my advantage. But you know, anytime we, I guess, catch ourselves thinking in that way, is that where you're what you mean by, and if it's affecting you, yes.
Like it's also like kind of being more introspective of yourself. Like you come to a point in your life, you're like, okay, what's going on? Let me find out who I really am. And then you might come to a block. You're like, I can't figure this out, where this came from. I don't understand. Maybe I was programmed by my parents. Like that's usually the excuse that we have, and we
Yeah,
kind of end it there. But it might not be.
yeah,
Like for example, like with your ancestors, like this would be an example of a gift, right? Your ancestor could have been like many generations back, and then she was like, you know what, I'm going to do something for myself. I'm not going to be in the home and you know, do the traditional things. I'm going to start something that's mine. And then it kind of just trickles down. It really does have purpose, us inheriting both the traumas and the gifts from our ancestors, but we have the ability to heal them if we're ready.
beautiful. I love that. I love that, because that means that, you know, if there's both traumas and gifts, we can heal the traumas and take those gifts and really start to implement them into our lives that, again, help us move forward in such a positive way and grow.
Hmm.
Oh,
Yeah, it's just the tough part is facing the traumas. Of course, it's not going to be like sexy or anything going through the work, but sometimes it's like, oh, okay, because like there's something empowering about realizing it wasn't you. Like you have the ability to heal your ancestors, but also knowing the fact that there's somebody in your family, especially if you don't are not close to anyone, or if you're adopted, or you don't have any close family to you, you feel that somebody in your family has gone through what you did. Like if it's
mhm.
abuse, for example, like and like sexual abuse could be ancestral as well. You have that person in your family, even though they're not here, also feeling or have been through what you have been through. And it's something that is really, really makes you close to your ancestors and your family, just that feeling of having somebody go through what you've been through.
For sure. Beautiful. And I can also see, you know, like, say someone has lost their parent, right? Or parents, and they have sort of fallen away from their culture because of that, right? Like, can this also help them link back to different pieces of their culture and get closer with that, right? Like, because I'm hearing what you're talking about, in terms of feeling closer to them, sort
Mhm.
of like, because there's still a piece of that we have within us that sometimes we're not acknowledging. Yes.
I think it depends on the ancestor who comes. Like one of my ancestors who's come was part of I guess a tribe or a village, and then he was really um, he thought that people should know where we came from and our cultures and beliefs. So he talks about the stars and understanding where we came from there. And his trauma was the sadness of not being able to provide that to future generations, like our culture and sharing of it. And then in having that healing, I was able to go, okay, well, what about that? I don't know anything about that stuff. Let me go and take a look at it, because maybe it's in me that I know from within all of this stuff. Like I get goosebumps talking about it, because I feel
Yeah.
all my ancestors here right now. So it's like they're just like, yes, like, you know, those are the gifts, like pointing you where you have to go. Like one of my ancestors recently is like, Steph, you need to learn about our people and what has happened to our history. And it kind of helps you like with your personal journey and understanding yourself too. So it's not just the dark,
Yeah.
hard stuff too.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, beautiful. Stephanie, I can tell that you're so passionate about this, and it's no wonder why, like, we're getting messages like crazy from
Oh,
people
really? I
who
can
like
see.
go to your events in the downtown branch and just love you, and so I'm so grateful for everything that you're bringing to this community. Can you just share quickly how you work with people? So you said one-on-one mostly, but you also have some class or some workshops coming up, and I'm just going to share your website here so that people can find more information on you. But did you just want to share on that?
Um, I'm going to have an event with one of my co-founders for another collective, Ouroboros collective, coming up on the 12th, actually. We're going to talk a little bit more about ancestral healing there. But I am having a promotion for Happy Healthy Women, and I'm going to give a coupon code. I'll paste it there for $60 off for new client packages. I also have a program too for people who are lower income, because I understand I want to make this stuff accessible to everybody. This is about the healing of the ancestors for me, and not really generating profit. So if you feel the calling from your ancestors to come heal, please apply. It's fine. Like, don't feel shy or scared, because I don't want cost to be a barrier. But I'm going to talk about this all the time. Like, feel free, just ask questions, whatever. I know this is new, and then this is a different thing, but I'm happy to talk about it.
Love it. Oh, you're the best. And for those of you watching again, if you missed me say this at the beginning, Stephanie is not only an incredible coach and mentor and healer, but she also runs our downtown Toronto branch. So if you want more of this type of conversation, definitely join her in her events in the Happy Healthy Women downtown Toronto branch. Stephanie, thank you for being here. I appreciate
Thanks
you
for
so
having
much.
me.
What a great conversation. Thank you. And for everybody else, if you're watching and you are feeling as though you would like to step into your leadership and join us in Happy Healthy Women, you could also join Stephanie's branch as a leader. Please do touch base with us at hhwglobal.com, and we'd love to chat. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Take care.